Baldur's Gate 3 is a massive success and has taken the gaming industry by storm. Rightfully so, if you ask me. Lucky for us RPG fans, there is another gigantic and highly anticipated role-playing game coming out very soon. Of course, I'm talking about Starfield, a game developed and published by one of the most beloved role-playing game studios out there, I would say, Bethesda Game Studios. But with high-caliber studios like Bethesda, come of course tremendous expectations in the gaming community, even more so as this is their first newly created universe in 25 years. The game has been in development for a significant amount of time, and has also been delayed multiple times, so there are both high expectations and also some concerns in the community. Sure, Bethesda has, aside from Fallout 76 maybe, a pretty damn successful game release history, but so did CD Projekt Red before Cyberpunk came out. So to me at least, a game's company name alone isn't an indicator for a successful upcoming game. I do have to say, however, that after watching the 45-minute gameplay showcase, it was pretty clear to me that by now Bethesda knows what their player base wants and doesn't want to see in their games. And they took everything that worked out for them in their previous successful titles and built a massive game with that knowledge in mind, and improved many of those concepts. I also believe that the showcase was very transparent and they succeeded in setting the right expectations for their audience. What exactly you should and shouldn't expect from this game, we'll talk about now. Too many games nowadays use the term RPG, but when you take a closer look at them, you'll often find that they are actually lacking core elements that define RPGs. This is, thankfully, not true for Bethesda games. What you should definitely expect is a proper, immersive RPG. Their developers said that when developing Starfield, it was crucial to them that it's gonna be a Bethesda game through and through, even when given its massive size and scale. They stayed true to the formula that players loved in the Skyrim and Fallout games. This starts with the comprehensive, detailed character creator, which isn't limited to just visual changes. You can choose your background, which determines your starter skills, can give you exclusive dialogue options depending on your choice, and also determines how people perceive you in the world. You can also choose up to 3 optional traits, which come with both advantages and disadvantages. Starfield will inherit many successful implementations and gameplay elements that made Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series extremely well-received RPGs. And yes, pickpocketing is back too. Your actions carry weight and consequences. There are various factions for you to interact with, and while the game absolutely has a main storyline, it embraces Bethesda's signature freedom of choice. This lets you forge your own path, craft your own narrative, and shape your own identity as you see fit. For many players, the main story isn't the center of attention in Bethesda games. It's everything else and the story you tell, and given the size of the game, this everything else just gets even more exciting when you take the over 1000 planets into account. Those 1000 planets bring us to the next expectation, which is exploration. Just the presentation of the game alone makes it pretty clear that exploration will be one of the absolute main attractions and selling points of the game. What else do you expect from a game that's first and foremost, titled Starfield, is developed by Bethesda, and presents itself like this? There will be both space and ground exploration, and both types will offer the possibility for the player to experience the rich storytelling Bethesda is known for. Space exploration includes surveying planets for resources, encountering other spaceships, both hostile and friendly, that you can either decide to destroy or trade and talk to them. It's also possible to discover points of interest, like space stations, which you can then explore. There are also 4 distinctive main cities, each located on a different planet, which act as massive hubs where players can pick up quests, shop and also encounter big parts of the story. As you know by now, there are approximately 1000 planets to explore. That's a pretty big number and can set wrong expectations if you are not aware of certain design choices or limitations. For example, only around 10% of these planets will have life on them. Now, mind you, that is still around 100 planets, which is still extremely impressive. This design choice also makes sense and one could argue is realistic, because that's probably what space is like. I expect not every planet will be full of life and things to do. That's just how space probably is. That's not to say that the planets without life on them will be pointless to explore, as there may be valuable resources on that planet. or maybe prove to be an ideal planet for your base. Those 1000 planets will partly be procedurally generated, but also have handcrafted elements. This is not the first time Bethesda has used procedural generation in their games. They are familiar with this process, so I expect a good balance between procedural generation and handcrafted locations. When exploring planets, you will witness a lot of the environmental storytelling that Bethesda excels at. Planets have different biomes, and the flora and fauna a planet has will feel native to that planet's biomes and climate, and not just random aliens that serve no purpose whatsoever. Exploring a planet in Starfield may include collecting resources, exploring facilities, searching points of interest, interacting with communities, and something that I'm very excited for, building outposts, which we'll cover in a minute. As planets feature different climates, conditions and potentially hazardous environments, you can get ailments if you decide to go unprepared to a planet. Ailments we've seen in the gameplay are, for example, cough or soreness. Now to the next expectation that I already hinted at, Outpost and Spaceship Building. Similar to Fallout, you can build outposts and fine-tune and decorate them to your liking. This system seems to have improved significantly, so I definitely expect very fun and comprehensive building mechanics. You can create your outposts and main base pretty much everywhere in the galaxy, and for any reason you see fit, whether it be your home base, a research facility, or for resource harvesting. You can and should assign crew members or companions to these outposts so they operate properly. In addition to outpost building, you can also build and operate your own spaceship, which I expect to be an extremely entertaining aspect of the game. You can buy, upgrade and customize your ship, as well as assign crew members to keep it up and running. There is even a dedicated ship builder mode, where you can pretty much change everything on your ship. We've even seen developers shaping the spaceships into the form of animals. So I think it's pretty safe to say that even if your expectations are very high in this regard, you will probably have a blast building your very own spaceship. The next expectation on our list are bugs. If previous Bethesda game releases are anything to go by, then Starfield will, even with its delays, most likely have quite a few bugs at release. This applies to pretty much every game that's ever been created, and is amplified by the tremendous size of Starfield. As long as the bugs are not absolutely game-breaking, for example corrupt save files, blue screens of death, or constant crashes, then I'm pretty sure most players won't mind the occasional bugs. Performance issues could also be a problem at release, as we have seen quite a few frame drops in their very own gameplay deep dive. So I think you would do well for yourself if you do not expect a flawlessly smooth launch. If that is what you expect, then you should probably wait a week or two until the first patches roll out. Before we move to the last expectation, I want to cover the graphics. I'm glad that developers were transparent with the footage they showed in their gameplay, because it showed one thing very clearly. The game's focus is fun and entertainment, not realism. This also applies to the graphics. You can of course expect Starfield to have the best graphics from any Bethesda game so far. Anything else wouldn't really make sense anyway. But the game still has those Bethesda typical graphics. Let's be honest, the faces and animations are improved compared to the previous titles of course, but they are far from next gen. The lighting is impressive, but the game didn't aim for hyper-realistic graphics. And that's alright, because not every game has to. The graphics give the game its own unique charm. So to keep this short, you should expect improved Bethesda graphics, but nothing revolutionary, like Unreal Engine 5 graphics for example. Lastly, let's quickly talk about modding support. Bethesda has a history of supporting the modding community, allowing players to create and share custom content. This game has especially huge potential for the modding community, given its 900 barren planets. I'm sure Bethesda had the modding community in mind when designing this game, so definitely expect robust modding support for Starfield. And that's pretty much it. All in all, I think Starfield is definitely a game to be excited for if you keep your expectations real and in check. If this video was helpful, consider leaving a like, as it helps me out a ton. See ya!